We're talking about the fight over handwritten
Yes, we
lyrics
are.
and the words, the famous song Hotel California, whether or not they were stolen.
We're so excited. We've been talking all commercial break.
Yeah, nobody gave me a prep.
Get ready.
We just all have thoughts on
Yes.
this. That's why we brought in our legal analyst, Whitney Traylor, to talk a little bit more about this fight involving the Eagles. Of course, this is a song everyone knows. I mean, everyone knows this song. So what's at issue? The note, they were on a legal pad or something?
Yes.
The lyrics?
That's allegedly there's about 80 pages of scratch paper that led to a number of different songs, including, of course, Hotel California. And so that was the issue, was one of the writers that worked with Don Henley and the Eagles, Ed Sanders, he said, hey, they gave me these papers, and then he sold them, and the folks who bought them are now trying to put them on auction and things like that, and they're being prosecuted now for a number of things: conspiracy to possess stolen property, criminal possession of stolen property, hindering prosecution, and so they're being prosecuted for these 80 pages of materials that led to, these are lyrics and his notes that led to the writing of the songs.
So what's very different in some of these cases, we're not talking really about intellectual property here.
Right.
This is about the physical, the collectible item is
Yeah.
what they're saying was stolen and what's at case here.
Right. They're not talking about intellectual property. We're not even really talking about copyright. They're just saying, hey, you didn't have permission to take these documents, and so they're being criminally prosecuted. But normally something like this would be a civil lawsuit. It would just be.
So why is this in a criminal court?
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask, because the defense lawyers are saying this is a starstruck prosecution, and as evidence of that, they're saying the prosecutor's investigator wanted backstage passes to the Eagles, and apparently they said,
I'd like to meet my heroes by prosecuting them.
Exactly. So they're saying they're starstruck. This is unusual. This shouldn't be criminally prosecuted. And from what I've seen, there's some merit to that. I understand that argument.
Yeah, so the sorting out the civil and the criminal, but also, I mean, obviously these are important collectibles. I mean, when you think about it, if it was something that the Beatles had, they're
Yes.
really important to a lot
Yeah.
of people. But then you got to bring up all the stars in the band, Don Henley, and you got to sort out some kind of
Some of the evidence, yeah.
sore details
Exactly.
from the past.
Well, and that's what the defense is doing. They're kind of going after Don Henley and saying, hey, you don't remember, you were doing drugs. They actually brought up a situation where he was criminally prosecuted in, I think, 1981 for being caught with a 16-year-old who was naked, and it actually said, hey, I called her and I was depressed because we were breaking up and all this. And so they're raising these issues, obviously, to cast a certain appearance on Don Henley, but also to suggest his memory was failing because he was doing so many drugs. And that's an interesting argument
So
to
he
say.
said, take these.
Right, and that's part of the issue. That's why we have statute of limitations, because sometimes people say, you can't do something 20 years later because people don't remember the important witnesses. They just don't remember. This stuff is important enough that I think people would remember, though.
How does that play in court? Because it reminds me of a sexual assault trial where the victim ends up being put on trial by the defense. It seems like they want to put Don Henley on trial here. That's not the case.
Right, and that's what they're trying to do, and I don't know if that's going to be as effective because this is a non-jury trial. So with a jury trial, and I believe in the system, I think a jury trial is great, but it's easier to distract a jury than it is a judge. And so this tactic, will it work on a bench trial? I don't know.
Well, we will see what happens. I know a lot of people are following this one. Like you said, it's one of those celebrity-involved trials. There's salacious stories that run through it as well, and the song that everybody knows is at the center as well. So we'll continue to follow it. We appreciate your insight as always.
And we're glad you came, even though you said you forgot your jacket. You always look great. What difference does it make?
I wanted to show the guns, I guess.
Show the gun.
You're like an old Dodge. You're sporty. It's sensible.
Okay, thank you. I'll never wear a jacket again.
Thanks, Whitney.